All right, hello and welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, December 5th, and we have reached week 4 here. We are in the home stretch for the month. You guys hit full steam working on week 3 game composition, the production technique, and the technical assignment. You also finished out your week 2 revisions, and you have one more round of revisions for your week 3 assignments. So we are going to be talking about the new assignments for week 4. And we'll also take a listen to some of the submissions from the Palace composition. This is the one that you just finished out. So we have 5 different submissions to take a listen to. So like all of our other Tuesdays, we will start out discussing the new assignments for week 4, and then we will go back and listen to and do a bit of review and discussion of what you submitted from the previous week. So, hold on just a sec here. So, now ending out the month here in week 4, we have no brand new game composition, and that is because we don't have a week 5 to do revisions of that new composition. So no game composition this week, but we still do have a production technique and technical assignment. Your production technique will still have you creating music, but it is not to a full game project at the sort of size and scale of our previous weeks. And this gives us the opportunity to finish out the revisions of the game, of your Palace game composition, make any sort of tweaks to that. And then our main focus of assignments and just the topics that we will be hitting on is how do you take everything that you've learned, the projects that you've worked on, the skills that you've gained, and how do you apply it beyond the class, beyond the month, and how do you take the different materials that you've created and set them up to be as useful and the best kind of demonstration that you can create from them. How do you take the music, the sound effects, the whole kind of package, because now now through the end of the month you have 3 fully working game projects with different music, different approaches to how the music is working in the game. And the real purpose of your game compositions each week, while being well and good as assignments for the class, we're really wanting to make sure that you have something that you can add to a portfolio or a demo reel to give a project that can kind of demonstrate and show how your music can work in a game environment, because music for a game is best demonstrated in that game. Yes, you can post up WAV files. You can host something on your website or on SoundCloud, and they can stream a linear file. But it really doesn't give. If you could play like here's 3 different main loops. Well, it doesn't really give a sense of how those main loops work together unless it's working in the game, and that's especially so for the sound effects because it reacts to the gameplay so directly. So we want to talk about how you can your your technical assignment and your production technique. The assignments for this week are really focused on how do you start out in the industry, how do you take what you've learned and apply it outside of the class. One of the overall large focuses and purposes of the class is to really give you exposure to the game industry, to these types of game projects, and give you a sense of if it's something that you are interested in working on, or hopefully you find it as a really good place for your music and something that you want to explore further. So how do you take the projects and show them off, and how do you really get started in the industry as a whole? So that's where that's kind of the direction that the last week takes, and that gives us the opportunity to wrap up our revisions and the new assignments for week 4. Do be aware that there is no revision phase for the week 4 assignments. Everything is due at the end of the month, and there you have the revisions for week 3, and then that's it. You have the week 4 assignments as one pass because there's no brand new full game composition. And that gets everything wrapped up through the last end of the week. There is one little thing that I do want to point out in the how the assignments are set up and the pull dates. As you look at your week 4 assignments, you will notice that the pull date has been moved to Friday and moved up a little bit. And on the books by FSO, all of, Full Sail's classes end officially on Friday for online. And so I have to make all of the assignments due on Friday. Now, all of the assignments are also set up to allow for submissions beyond that date. So I will still be taking submissions all the way through the weekend, all the way through Sunday. So you still have the same amount of time, but just to fall in line with all of the dates official from Full Sail, I have to make the initial pull date on Friday, and then allow for submissions all the way through that weekend. So if this causes any issue or concern, please contact me, and we can certainly work it out. So that's pretty much what we have in store for this evening. Let's go ahead and dive in to our first assignment for week 4, the technical assignment. Now, the purpose here and kind of the final result of this assignment this week is creating a video capture of your music and your sound effects working in the game. Hopefully you've taken the opportunity throughout the entire month to test out your audio files, both the music and the sound effects. In the assignments, there is a description of a particular folder that you place all of the WAV files in, and the next time you play the game, you should hear your music and sound effects working correctly. And if you don't, then there's some sort of problem with the setup, or problem with the format that needs to be addressed. So as you go along week by week, you should be testing out all of your music and all of your files, but if you have, and if you haven't done that throughout, well, in this assignment, you are going to be testing out everything and demonstrating how your music works via a video capture. And that video capture is going to be done in QuickTime, using the QuickTime screen capture functionality. And the reason for a video capture is that it is the probably the clearest and most efficient means to show off your music working in the game. Now you have the ability to change out all of the WAV files in the game. You have the ability to play and distribute the game project. These games are built so that you can use them to freely demonstrate your work in these game projects. So they are yours to distribute and put on a website or allow for a download, as long as you clearly indicate that all of the audio is yours and in your creation. but that you didn't actually create any of the game itself or any of the graphics. But it is certainly yours to show off your work, which means that you can host the game itself somewhere. Probably the best thing to do is to zip it up and archive it and post it as a link. You can put it on Dropbox and send people links to download it. However, you can put it on your website. You can pass it through email, whatever it is. However you feel is the best way to post it and distribute the files is up to you. However, there are some limitations overall, technical limitations of somebody downloading and playing your game and checking it out and seeing how the music sounds. Like I said, you could host the music and post it on SoundCloud or YouTube or your own website somewhere, and somebody could get a sense of how it works, but always the best way is to see it actually working in the game. So that means they have to play the game, and there is where some of the technical limitations can come in. First off, it is a Mac game. So that means that they have to have a Mac to play that game, which could be common. A lot of the game industry is based off of PCs, so you're not always guaranteed that somebody is going to have a Mac computer to play it. Their computer has to be powerful enough to play games, which these games are really not all of that heavy overall or technically taxing on a computer. So that probably won't present any sort of issue. There is the opportunity, or there is the possibility of it getting the game itself getting phased out of by technology, meaning that probably not anytime soon, but maybe 5 or 10 years from now, or who knows, with Apple's operating systems, every year they create a whole new operating system, and then a lot of software doesn't work with it, previous versions of it. So, but more so maybe 5 or 10 or however many years down the road, there's no guarantee that this game is always going to work. Or any piece of software or anything on a computer or technology. Now, so there is those technical limitations of just the game at all playing. Then there is some of the bumps or the roadblocks of somebody actually playing the game and checking out how your music works, meaning that they have to be savvy enough to play games, good enough to play the game and not just get completely frustrated by it and quit. They have to, maybe they hate the game so much that they in turn hate your music, or they love the game so much that they forgot to even pay attention to your music and go around to have to play it through a couple of times to realize how well the music fits overall. I mean, those are kind of extremes. And a lot of that may not be the case. More than likely you're sending this type of work off to a game developer or probably a technically savvy individual that's interested in games and interactive music. So the concept of somebody understanding to download and play your game and how it all works, that's probably not the end of everything. That's not too big of a hurdle overall. There is also the consideration that a lot of people don't necessarily just like to download random files off of the internet and install applications or play applications to check out your game. They might not necessarily want to do that immediately. And granted, it's on a Mac, and Macs have a better track record with that overall, but certainly not the first thing that people typically like to do. So, considering all of that, you want to make it as simple and easy and lazy as possible for somebody to quickly check out the work that you've done. So the best way of doing that is doing a video capture of the game, so that more than likely a video is going to be playable for many, many years to come, and is very quick and efficient. People have no issue with clicking on a link and watching a video online. It gives them a sense of what's going on, gives them an idea of what it's all about, and probably feel more comfortable with what they're about to download and watch and play. Also, a video gives you the opportunity to perfectly capture exactly what you want to show off for your music and the game, so that you play the game and play it in a way that it really easily and well defines or demonstrates how your music is working and what it's all about. So there's lots of reasons that doing a video capture works very nicely as a means to demonstrate your work. And it's in addition to, it's not certainly in replacement of the game. If you had it on a website, there would be the video. Here, watch the video, check out everything about the game, check out how my music sounds, and if you want more information, you actually want to play the game, then here's the link, click that and download the game and play it. Oh, by the way, it's Mac game, and this is how you play. Those sorts of considerations will make it a whole lot easier for some prospective client or employer to check it out, right? You're lucky to have people's attention, and people's attention span, certainly on the internet, can be quite short and quick, and they want something easily and fast so that they can check out exactly what's going on, and they'll probably click on to the next thing right away. So the technical assignment will go through the process of doing a video capture and capturing your music in the game. So more than likely, you have done a screen capture. Give me a heads up in the chat, if you would, that you have done a screen capture before. You probably used QuickTime to do it. There's probably a class, an assignment. I always want to check this, that somewhere in some previous class you've done a screen capture of some format. And excellent. Getting the yeses. Yes, but not with audio. Absolutely. That is a good consideration and something specific that we have to address. Doing a video capture with QuickTime, really not all that big or challenging. It's a pretty straightforward process. The difference here, the unique aspect, is the fact that we need to capture the audio from the game. The game is internal to your computer. And QuickTime, whenever it, or QuickTime by default, whatever audio input you would like to use, the choices are something that is external to your computer. So when you load up QuickTime and you do file new screen recording, this pops up, and you can, from this down arrow, you can choose whatever input you would like. And I have installed a couple of extra options here, and I'll discuss a bit what this means. But really, your main choices are built-in microphone, and if you have an earlier laptop, you also have a line input, which means everything is outside of your computer going in. And this makes sense from Apple's point of view, because it doesn't want you to easily be able to capture things inside of your computer, because then there's all sorts of copyright issues of what you might capture. But of course, what we're trying to capture is our own work, so certainly works for our purposes. But it's not provided from Apple by default. And so you are going to use, and this requires a separate install, a piece of software called Soundflower. And Soundflower is a very, very handy free piece of software, and there is a link available to download and work with Soundflower. And Soundflower is a virtual audio cable. It is a piece of software that allows you to connect the audio output of one piece of software to the audio input of another piece of software. And our audio input here is going into QuickTime, into our screen recording. The audio output, well, you can set this up from, probably the best way is your audio MIDI setup. And here you will notice that I have Soundflower 2-channel. There's also Soundflower 64 channels, so you could bus 64 things simultaneously. This is like having 64 audio cables hanging in the inside of your computer, allowing you to connect one thing to the next. It's really like just like a real physical cable. It goes from the output of one piece of gear to the input of another piece of gear. And so I've never needed 64 channels all simultaneously. Stereo audio signal is what I am typically working with here. And you can set the input and output. You always want to make sure the volume is up and unmuted. But you can set the output of a particular piece of software or the default output out of Soundflower. I guess I'll try that. And now when you play the game, the software from the game, the audio is going to pass through Soundflower and go into your audio capture. And actually, I am using Soundflower for all of my audio broadcasts, and I use it to combine my microphone together along with everything internal inside of my computer, like Logic specifically, so that you can hear me and you can hear what's going on in my computer and all that stuff. So if I set this to Soundflower, then you notice that's my mic bouncing up and down, and those are the audio signals passing around inside of my computer. So this is a very handy piece of software. And along with this assignment, or I guess the documentation for this assignment, has a step-by-step guide of using Soundflower and using QuickTime to do a video capture of how this process works. All right, so the completion of this assignment is actually, once you get everything set up and routed and you know that everything is working, then the completion of the assignment is really just playing the game and showing off your music and your sound effects. But definitely try and test out this process earlier on in the week. Make sure that you understand how this is technically flowing and that you can capture audio inside of your computer. And then you can work on just capturing and getting the best demo video as possible. So a couple of things here I'll point out from this assignment. You can choose any of the 3 games. All of the screenshots and I guess the descriptions are really from 2D Platformer, but really you can choose any of the 3 games, and I actually encourage you to do all 3 of the games because you've created all of the content, you've done all of the hard work. Now you can place all of your audio files and test and make sure that they are working for the game. For the minimum of the assignment, I only require just doing this process for 1 game to make sure that if you had any sort of technical issues with one of the 3 games, you can do any of the other games and still complete the assignment no problem. Really, for overall with this assignment, the main thing that I'm concerned with is the process of doing the audio capture. Can you capture the audio from the game, set up Soundflower properly, get QuickTime working, and and create a professional capture? The content of that capture is secondary to that process, right? If I know that you can create a video and you can capture anything inside of your computer, then I know later on if you had a different game or a different computer or something change, you still have the process of how everything works together, and you can create a solid demonstration video. Now, what you actually capture, which of the 3 games you capture, which one works best for you, again, I encourage you to do all 3 of them because I'd never see the final result of your complete kind of packaged working project until you submit these videos. As I go through and as they're graded, I hear sound effects, I hear music, I hear everything separately inside of the DAW, but certainly it works and is all stitched together properly in the game. So certainly I enjoy that, but then you have 3 videos to add to your portfolio, 3 working projects to show off. Now, let me go over how to get your music working in the game. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the month, but just a quick review. I'll just throw Angry Bots up here. And you always make sure, triple check your files, make sure they're correct sample rate, bit depth, file names. With each of the assignments, there's an asset list that describes how everything needs to be formatted. And once you have all of your files, you just go to the game, you right click on it, and you choose Show Package Contents, or I guess command click, same thing. Do Show Package Contents. It will open up a folder here that says Contents. Go inside of that. Go inside the folder that says Data. Actually, let me do it this way. Go into Contents, go into Data, and then you'll find Streaming Assets. And in there, you will find something very familiar. You'll find sound effects and music. Delete the original ones there. Obviously, you want to switch them out for your own versions. And you can do this for all 3 of the games. Then you play through the games, test out, make sure everything is working for you. If something doesn't work, if a file does not play back correctly, then it is because there's something up with your files in the way that it's most likely in the way that it's named. Every once in a while, it's because it's at the wrong sample rate or bit depth, or it's surround instead of stereo, or whatever it is. So once you do that, then you can go into the game, launch the game the next time, and you can make sure that everything works properly. A couple of considerations with this configuration screen. The video capture that you do, you want to look as clear and professional as possible. You can adjust the screen resolution. The smaller the resolution, the smaller the window, the faster the game will play, but it's not all that big. Depends on if you have a Retina display on your laptop. Depends on what your resolution on your screen is. I like to use, actually for video capture, you can turn off windowed and make it full screen once you play around with the settings. Sometimes you can do it in a window and adjust the resolution accordingly. Sometimes graphic quality. Most of the time you want to keep it on fantastic, make it look as best as possible. But adjusting these settings might give you either better performance or a better looking video capture. You'll be using QuickTime and Soundflower to do the capture. I guess if you have another piece of software that does audio and video capture, you could use this. I certainly choose QuickTime and Soundflower because it is a free option. Something like ScreenFlow, I guess, would work just fine. The only thing you don't want to do, the only thing I won't accept is something that has like a huge watermark across it that says ScreenFlow trial version. Right? You want to watch out for that. You want to make it where the focus is actually on your work. If you are not great at playing the game, that is fine. If you need to take a couple of passes at it to get a quality recording, that's also fine. I am not really grading you on the content of the capture. I'm certainly not grading you on how well you played the game or what score you got or anything like that. You want to do the best capture that possible, right? You want to maybe take a couple of tries at it to make it work, because this is going to be kind of captured in stone for a really long time. If for some reason the game doesn't work years down the line, you'll still have that really cool video. So you want to make it pretty solid. Here in the chat, Liam, my daughter plays Angry Bots way better than I do. Yes, if you have a designated hitter, if you have somebody else stand in to play the game, perfectly fine. Obviously, you want to be able to show it off. It doesn't really need to be all that long. Probably a minute tops will get the point across. Even 30 seconds to something like that. You really want to have multiple variations play. If you can't catch every ending or something like that, that's fine. I'm not really going to take an inventory that you hit every single variation, but for your purposes, you want to show off not just one idea, like one beginning, one middle, and try to get killed as quick as possible and have a 10-second long video, right? It's not really going to show the best, your music and the whole project in the best light. So just a consideration. Now, for the audio, if for some reason the audio is like completely quiet or totally distorted, or sometimes I'll get where there's just no audio at all, right? You didn't actually listen back to the video to see that something was completely missing. Or if you don't set up Soundflower correctly, what will happen a lot of times is people will just record their built-in microphone, and I'll hear them like creepily breathing in the background and tapping on their computer to play the game, and I'll hear their dog barking in the background and their family yelling and whatever, talking. And so always double check, listen to the movie. Don't just assume that what you recorded works just fine. You always want to check it all out. Clean your desktop of any extraneous icons. Try to do a full screen recording. So this makes it just a bit more professional overall. Who knows what crazy desktops you have or whatever messy icons all over the place. Always, clear it out, make it as smooth. If you need to, only just capture a portion of your desktop and hide everything else in some corner and in some folder somewhere. That's perfectly fine. But I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mark off for that, but you're just headed towards the professionalness of the overall project. Yes, and again, you're encouraged to capture footage from all three games. Once you have it set up, it's really just playing the video games. So there's certainly not a challenge to that, and it gives you more material to work with. Download Soundflower. Soundflower is a free application. Well, I would show you the link, but it just downloads it automatically for you. Shows up like, well, let me get to the file, get this out of the way, do this, come on, don't get all fancy on me. All right, and you just install the package here to get access and have it. You might need to restart your computer. Soundflower does not run in the dock below. You won't see an icon show up at the bottom of your screen, but if you go to any of your inputs and outputs, you will see that you have a new audio device, and you can route in and out of it. So you install it, setting up for your screen recording. I actually use audio MIDI setup, but the same thing, you can go into your preferences, your audio preferences. In system preferences, you want to set your computer to be Soundflower 2 channels. You open up QuickTime Player. You set up for a new screen recording. This part is the part that should be pretty straightforward here. You've done this part before. Now you're going to need to set a separate input. And so once you open this up, you should have the access to Soundflower 2 channel. And once you play the game, you should see the bars bouncing up and down into your QuickTime audio recording. I always suggest that you record just for a few seconds and then watch the video to make sure it's all good, right? Don't record for 2 minutes and think it's perfect and then realize everything was, I don't know, something was wrong. So always test it out first, make sure you got a quality recording, and then it should work pretty well. You can do a full screen recording. You can do a windowed recording. Again, just test it out a couple of times. See what works best for you. When you first start this process out, you're not going to be able to hear anything from Soundflower. And of course, that's not going to work too well. So there is an application that is included called Soundflower Bed. And with Soundflower Bed, it opens up and runs in the menu bar at the top of your screen. Again, it doesn't run in the dock. And right up here, it's a pull-down menu, and you can set to whatever output you use. Typically, your built-in output, if you use a separate audio interface, this allows you to actually listen to what's going on inside of your computer, which is very, very handy. So some people don't catch this step, so you always want to make sure you are running with Soundflower Bed open also. Then it's just all about recording the screen footage. You can, again, set your settings, your resolution, the graphics quality, either do a windowed version, a full screen version. There is a possibility that this whole assignment can make your computer chug, and it could be pretty taxing on your computer, depending on how fast your processor is, hard drive speed, how much RAM you have. If you haven't had any issue playing the games throughout the month, then it might work. You probably won't run into any issues with this also. But if you are playing the game and doing a video recording all at the same time, so you want to make sure that the video is as high quality as possible. If you do need to change any of the settings, make it as smooth of a capture as you can, then you just reduce the resolution overall. Now, if all else fails, if you've changed the settings, changed the screen size, also changed the resolution on your computer, maybe if you have a super nice Retina display, then you can reduce everything down. Honestly, all of these archives that I do are at 1024 by 768. They're very low resolution. It keeps the file size down overall for a 2-hour recording. But same idea with your computer. You can do a smaller resolution to get a better, higher quality recording in a smaller window. But if absolutely nothing works, you're still having where the game stutters and might jump around a bit. If the video stutters, if there's a glitching video, that's okay. We don't want the audio to glitch, however. Obviously, you want as clean of a recording as possible, but if something's got a glitch, then it's okay if the video does, just as long. I mean, if the audio, if your computer just can't handle anything, audio, video, everything glitches at a really low resolution, then contact me, and we'll figure out some alternative. There's always other choices. But definitely get everything set up. Test out Soundflower. Make sure everything is going to be captured properly. Then it's all about just showing off the game, showing off your music, play the game, have fun with it. You want to put your game in the best light, so show off as much as you can in a pretty short amount of time. And then all you need to do is stop it, and then it'll finish out the recording, and you have a working video of everything. So you'll stop the game. You might have to use like Command Tab to tab between multiple applications, or switch back to your desktop or something like that. You'll hit stop recording, save everything, save it according to this, last name, first name, GCP Week 4 technical assignment. And then check it. Again, people have issues. If they have any trouble with the assignment, it's because they didn't check the audio. They didn't actually watch the video to see that nothing actually worked properly. And if typically if something's not working, you go through these instructions, and it'll go through the steps pretty clearly. If nothing's working, contact me, and we can always fix and troubleshoot anything. I said a lot of this stuff, clear off your desktop. You can hide the dock to get that out of the way also. Change your resolution, change your screen size. Do a high resolution recording. If that doesn't work, try a low resolution windowed recording. That might make things a bit easier. And then set up everything, zip it all up, and submit it over to me. And again, the purpose of this assignment is creating videos, but really it's to give you material, easily solid demonstration material that you can show off what you've done. All right. Let's move on to the production technique. But before I do this, I'm going to take a quick pause. Let me know if you have any questions so far. You can post those up in the chat. I'll just be a moment. Okay. Let's move on to the production technique. Our second assignment for this week. And our production technique will have you finding a game project to use for a mock spec demo and pitch letter. You are going to kind of mock up the process of contacting a new game developer and expressing your interest in working with them, providing information about yourself, your interest in working with the project as a composer, and links to media and contact information and anything that you can provide so that they can check out your work and follow up with you. So this project comes in a couple of parts. First, you would do a bit of research and find a game project that you are interested in working with. You are going to provide some information and research about that game, of who the developer is, what type of game it is, description of the gameplay. You will create a piece of music that is in the style of that game. So your intentions with your involvement and the work that you might do for this game project. So you'll create about a minute-long demo in the style of that game. And you'll finish out with a pitch letter, kind of a probably would be in the form of an email that you would send off, kind of expressing and exploring their interest in the game, to express your interest in working with them, provide them with more information about yourself, and giving them the ability to follow up. Now, a couple of disclaimers for this project. Number one here is you will not actually be contacting any of these game developers for the purposes of this assignment. You don't need to find anybody that is currently looking for a composer. You don't need to actually reach out and talk with them and discuss anything with them. I don't want to send out an onslaught of hungry composers on some unknowing game developers, wondering where the sudden interest in their game is. That also means that you don't have to find somebody that's currently looking for a game composer. You can just kind of assume any game that you come across is currently in need for a game composer and is looking for you. So for the purposes of this project, you don't actually need to contact anybody. You don't actually need to find a current, it should be probably a current game, but a game that currently needs a game composer, and it really opens up the options for whatever type of game that you want to work with. I encourage you heavily, please find a game that is on the size and scale of a type of project that you would work on pretty early after leaving the degree program, pretty early on in your career. Meaning that you probably don't need to say, Dear Activision, I love to play Call of Duty. I play it all of the time. I've recently graduated from the music production degree program, and I would love to be your next and sole and only game composer for the massive franchise that is Call of Duty. Probably not the on the scale of a project that you would work on by yourself straight out of the gate. Certainly hired in on a team, working on as a junior position or an intern position, much more likely overall. But as a composer or audio person overall for the entire project, something in the indie market, in the smaller size and requirements for their music soundtrack. So, the first part to this, one other disclaimer. So that is, you don't actually need to contact anybody. You want to keep it in the kind of independent realm of smaller game developers and game projects. And the other one is, do not put the this project in the terms of you being a student working on a project. Meaning that when you're doing your pitch letter, you want to approach it as a professional contacting another business and another professional entity. You want to keep it in the realm of a professional business correspondence, not in the scope of you are a student doing an assignment for class. Meaning, you probably wouldn't want to say, Dear game developer, my name is John Smith, and I am a student in game composition, and for an assignment, I am contacting you to work on your game. Probably not the context that you're going to want to apply this, because honestly, you're not going to be a student for very long. You've only got a few months before you are a professional starting out in the industry. So don't frame this assignment in the context of you as a student. Put it as you as the professional. So first phase of this is finding a game that you are interested in using for this project. And there's the wide internet that you can use to find the project that you might be interested in. However, there are two websites here that I recommend if you don't have any other sources or want a great source for all sorts of different types of games. Two websites here, ModDB and IndieDB. They're kind of sister sites, two sides of different parts of the industry. ModDB, mod stands for modification and is modifying a previously existing commercial game. These mods are typically not going to be their own separate commercial games. They are extensions of an already popular commercial game that adds more characters, more stories. It's user-generated content. They can be quite large overall, but they exist in the world and the technology of some other company's games. So these are not intentionally going to be paid games or projects, but they are a great way of getting started and getting some credits under your belt working on a game project. So you can see over here they might be based off of the Call of Duty series, or I saw the Fallout series down below, or Half-Life series, some other game engine, some other technology. So you can go to top 100 mods. You can check these ones out. I think there's what's this one? If you go to mods top 100, it just gives a list with all of them. So you could check out these particular projects, or over here on IndieDB.com, These games are not based off of any other commercial game project. They are their own game, their own technology, and they are typically destined for the commercial market. Being distributed digitally with either no publisher or independent distribution. However, a lot of these end up on the Steam game store. I don't know if you are familiar with Steam. It is a very popular digital game, downloadable game site from Valve Games, the same people that do. They do lots of stuff. They do Left 4 Dead. Sorry, they do the Dota series. They do. They did the Half-Life series. They do Portal. They do. I don't know what other ones. Team Fortress. Lots of very popular online games, and they have also created it's basically iTunes for games. And it's mainly for Mac and PC, and it's a great place to find games to work with. But this one lists all of these games are in production and various phases of production. You might be familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's. This has been a pretty recent popular game on mobile platforms, or it started out on PC. But moved quickly to mobile platforms and became very popular on iOS and Android. You can do top 100 here. Is it going to do the same? This is too classy. I want just the list. Top 100, right? And you can go through all of these games and find something that you might be interested in. You can choose any one of these games. Let's see. Do I want to do a Star Wars game? Wow, I am so very surprised. There's a whole bunch of very popular Star Wars games out there. Why could that even be? Let's go over here. IndieDB. Spooky's House of Jump Scares. Well, that's pretty funny. Besiege. I think I've seen this game before. This looks pretty interesting. All right. So, you spend some time going through all sorts of different games, game projects, watch videos, read descriptions. You don't actually have to download and play the game, but if it's there and it's available for Mac and you want to check it out, there's certainly always fun to check out the games. There's no reason for you actually to buy it for the purposes of this project or anything. But let's say we wanted to use Besiege, and this looked like a fun game project. Now, this is actually a very popular game currently, and it has a complete soundtrack. So they're certainly not currently needing a game composer, but that is not for our consideration or concern at all. We can use this as our demonstration. So a couple of things here in the documentation for working on this particular project. Once you choose the game, you are going to provide some information about that game. I guess, oh, come on, where's my nice, there we go. I guess one thing that I should point out pretty readily is that the final submission for this project, the only thing that you need to submit is a single text document. Whether that's probably going to be a Word document or Pages document, text file, PDF, something like that. Basically, it takes the form of a professional business email that you would send off to a prospective client or employer. So in this document, you will provide some information and description of the game. You will provide a pitch letter, which expresses your interest in working in the game. And you will provide links to media, to your music, to any contact information and personal websites and things like that. Anything and everything that you would want to share with a prospective employer or client to show off your work. And so we'll talk about what all of this means here. So you start the text document. Come on, scroll. What's going on here with my... What is this? Stop. So you start out with the game description. game name, right? You can just copy this, right? Take all this, copy it, paste it in your text document, and then use it to answer all the questions. So, what's the game name? Besiege. What is it? What's the game company? Spiderling. Or game developer. Game name, Besiege. Game developer, Spiderling. Team website. Well, hunt around here somewhere. There's probably a website homepage. Besiege. Spiderlinggames.co.uk. Right, so show me their website so I can check out what the game's all about. Link to their website, team contact email address. Maybe you find info@besiege.com or info@spiderlinggames.com, or maybe you find some sort of contact email, right? If you were interested in contacting them, you'd have to do some research to find the best email that you can use. For the purposes of this assignment, if you find some game and you really can't find good, solid contact information, that's fine. You can actually make it up. I'm never really going to actually check that it's the correct email address. So make it up as info@game.com. But see if you can find, you would have to certainly do that for a full professional interaction with the client. Video, picture, links to the game if available, right? Give me some pictures and videos to look at. There's got to be something I can check out. You can send me a link to this trailer. You can send me, a lot of times on their games page, they have like a images page, and it just gives cool images that you can check out. There we go. Oh, excuse me. So send me, right? You don't send me an NDDP. You send me the actual full link here. So I'm always, I want to know what the game's about. I want to check it out. So what I typically do is I'll start listening to your music, and then check out the game as I'm listening to it and see that it all fits and matches and works well together. Link me to their NDDB or ModDB website, assuming that you found it there. If not, then wherever you found the game. But you can actually send me to their website, like this right here, nddb/game/besiege/ probably not images. So just so I have as much information as available. Then you will get into your pitch letter. Hold on, let me take another quick pause here. All right. Next, your pitch letter. As mentioned before, the main focus of the documentation, the text file that you will submit, takes the format of a professional email business correspondence send off to the prospective game developer that you're interested in working with. This takes the form probably of an initial kind of blind exploratory email just to see if they bite and see if they even respond. I do typically want to point out that the amount of information that you provide in this pitch letter is probably more than you would want to do in the initial contact. You don't want to blast them with a whole bunch of unwanted or unrequested material, so that a lot of companies won't even accept it because for fear of legal repercussions, where they listen to a piece of music and then they write some piece of music years later that remotely sounds like something that you might have sent them, and then they can be sued because it has like three of the same 100 notes, and some, I don't know, they're very protective of those ideas. I certainly know the folks that are working at larger game companies will do that. Audio directors just won't even accept listening to external audio files unless they find it on a website, or they find it on charted somewhere, or it's requested. So typically, it is just expressing your interest and then contact information if they want more information. You might send them links to your SoundCloud page or website where it's more generic stuff, but I guess more specifically, creating a piece of music that is meant to be attached to their game and in the style of their game. Some people get very resistant to that if it's not requested, where then don't take video of their game and put it to your music and host it on YouTube, because that's not what they may not appreciate that, and they didn't request that, and they didn't approve it. So you do not want, without specific information, specific permission to use any of their media along with your audio. So don't use the title of their game. Just you keep it all generic, but certainly inspired by their game project. So just a bit of a heads up, the idea here that you probably don't need to submit all of this information in a real world situation. Now, for this project, you do, because I'm basically wrapping up kind of a couple of back and forths between you and the game developer into one submission, because we only got one chance at this, right? We're not actually good doing that back and forth here. So I'm asking you to submit what you would probably have to gather over the course of a couple of emails, which basically goes like this. Hey, I'm an awesome game composer. You've got an awesome game. Here's a website where you can check out more work from me, and here's all my contact information and social media. I'm really interested in working with you. And they maybe or maybe not, but certainly hopefully contact you back and go, wow, that's some cool stuff. Yeah, we're looking for a game composer, and either here's a clip, or give me something in this style, or here's our game, give us your ideas on it. And then you would come back and provide some actual material in the style of their game. So that's just something to consider overall. I do have people that certainly you're not contacting anybody for the purposes of this assignment, but beyond this class, I've had students that do actually reach out to the game developer and maybe even start working with them, and used this assignment as a model overall. So it is definitely a good structure, and if asked for further feedback and information, it's often one of the first things that I suggest is, well, don't put all of this stuff in the first email. Use it over a couple of back and forths. Here in the chat, Angela, should we be copywriting all of our compositions? Absolutely. If you know that it isn't going to be intended for public consumption, right? If I'm just making music and that's only going to live ever on my computer, then I'm not going to copyright that. But if I know that it has intentions to be a professional piece of work, or I am demonstrating it publicly, where it might be stolen for whatever particular reason, then having copyright on it is certainly a very important step. Definitely a consideration overall to express that you were the original creator. So, pitch letter. Again, text document. You are going to start out with a salutation. Hello, game developer. Probably or hopefully you can find an actual contact, a name or an email address or a job title that you could address this to. If nothing else, you could say, Dear Spiderling Games, or Hello Audio Director, or hopefully you actually find a name that is a solid contact to work with. Introduce yourself. You could start out with, hello, my name is. You could say, I am a recent, or a, I am a, sorry, I don't know where that came from. I am a music composer. I am a game composer. I am a audio developer, just getting started out in the industry. I am a content creator. However you want to position yourself. Again, don't position yourself as a student doing an assignment. You are a professional contacting a prospective client. Express your interest in the project. Butter them up. Tell them how wonderful their project is. Tell them why you are interested in the project, why you think it's the coolest thing ever, and that you are absolutely excited and you are the perfect candidate to work with them. Express what drew you to the project. Wow, the art is amazing. That the style of the graphics are really, really cool and really, really lush and vibrant, and I really inspired my music to go in this direction. Or I like what you did with the gameplay or the storyline or the characters or whatever concept it is, whatever drew you to the game project to work with it. Express those ideas and why it's just the coolest thing ever and you have to work on the project. Offer a link to your spec music demo. So, along with the game research and the pitch letter, you will be creating a minute-long composition in the style of the game. It doesn't have to be interactive or looping or multiple cues or anything. It is just a linear composition around 60 seconds long that is in the style of the game. It kind of shows off your intentions for the music soundtrack, what your ideas are, what direction you would head for the production. You will host this on a website somewhere. SoundCloud or YouTube are probably your best options, or your own personal website, and then link to that in this documentation. You will not be submitting the WAV file or the MP3 or any of that to me through FSO. Just in the same way, if you were sending an email, don't make an attachment of a WAV file or an MP3 or zip it up or anything like that. Attachments often get stuck in the spam filter in somebody's email, or they just won't download it and play it. But people really often have no issue with just clicking on a YouTube link and watching or listening to music. So provide a link to your music. It needs to be hosted somewhere, so all they have to do is be lazy and click on a link and it magically starts playing. Give a description of your music demo, overall style, the genre and approach to your music, any ideas of theme or motif represented in the composition, your choice of instrumentation, tempo, and pacing. You want to keep it pretty generic and pretty user-friendly. You don't want to get too complex or too much music theory on them. More than likely, the types of folks that you are contacting aren't music composers, they're game developers. They may not speak the language of music and theory, so you don't really need to get too deep on that. Just say, hey, your racing game really inspired a fast-paced, driving, thumping bass line with this really fast beat, and check out the synth progression, or check out the kind of the effects that I did on this production. Give them just a bit of a general overall description of the composition. Links to other media. Along with the link to the music demo, you will add at least one other link to some other game music that you've done through the class. whether it is the intro and main loop and ending from 2D platformer, or whether it is either ambient or action cues, or whether it's the chiptune composition, or some mix of the Palace of Renthalion, just some link to some other game music that you've done. So here is my spec music demo, and if you want to check out some more information, make sure to listen to this other piece of... I worked on a chiptune composition in the style of the original Nintendo, where I created these series of action cues for a high-intensity robot fighting game, however you want to present it. Links to personal websites if available, links to demo reels or portfolios if available. You want to make it as easy as possible for somebody to check out a whole bunch of cool work and information about you. So hopefully you have already thought in this direction. Maybe you have a website, maybe you have a portfolio, or you have a SoundCloud page, or a YouTube page, or a Bandcamp page, or a Wix Media page, or what is that? Not a Faces page. Whatever. The Apple version. Flavors.me. That's what it is. Whatever website, if available, provide those. Certainly you want to include any links to media where they can find out more information about you. Also include information to contact you. So any contact information that is applicable or works in this context. So name, email address. You could include a phone number and mailing address if necessary. I probably don't need mailing address. Social media links. Hey, check me out on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook. And you want to, again, make it as easy as possible for people to find you and connect to you and keep in contact with you. Now, I do want to point out that for the purposes of this assignment, you don't have to provide real and true and correct information here. I certainly know that this is an assignment, and for all sorts of reasons, people don't feel comfortable with providing any sort of personal info or contact information or anything. And that's perfectly fine. I completely understand. No issue with it. You can completely make up any sort of contact information you want. Make up a phone number, make up an address, make up an email address, make up social media links. I would like it in the format so that it kind of fits and flows in your pitch letter overall. But if it's not the real information, I'm not going to double check or follow through in it with any of the information. Now, if you provide me Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook links, I might check it out. If they're yours and you feel comfortable with sharing those, that's perfectly fine. But for the purposes of this assignment, if you don't feel comfortable with providing any of that information, that's perfectly fine. I understand. Give me something in the format that fits with the flow of your pitch letter. Speaking to that point, however, I would like to express that in the professional realm, when you're out there looking for clients, looking for work, you should probably have a professional outward-facing Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, phone number, email address, mailing address that you have no issue with sharing with anybody and everybody. Because at some point in a professional context, you will have to be able to share that stuff, and you want to be able to be found on these social media outlets so that you can easily communicate and be in contact with all sorts of people. It is a technical industry. Those technical people exist on the internet somewhere, and you want to exist right along with them and be able to work with easily online. So if you don't have all that stuff now, just think about the idea of having professional versions of all of that. So you might have your own personal, interesting, weird Facebook page, and that's awesome. But at some point, you should have a professional version of all of these things also. So that's my spiel about all of the personal information for this assignment. For the purpose of the assignment, you don't have to share real and true personal information. And then close it. I look forward to talking with you further about this awesome project, or please find me in all of these easy locations. I would love to continue discussing this with you. However you want to close it, signature, have some sort of professional way to wrap everything up. So, basically a model and format to getting started with a future client. So typically these things are kind of a pain in the beginning as you're starting out, but over time you build a library of these up, and you use them as skeletons and models to hit up all of the new clients out there that you encounter. So again, the main thing is the only thing you're going to submit is a text document. In that text document, you're going to have the information, the game description, all of this information. You'll have the pitch letter, and then the pitch letter will have links to your hosted media. So all I have to do is click on a link to listen to your music, and then I click on another link, and it takes me to their website, and I check out the game, and I read your text document, and I can get a sense of everything that is involved very quickly and easily. Because again, I say it and I really mean it. Everybody is lazy on the internet. Nobody wants to work very hard. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to be lazy. And you typically you only give them exactly what works very well for their project. And then you have links to an amazing wealth of further information online where they can check out more of your work. All right, so those are the two assignments for this week. The two new week 4 the week 4 production technique and technical assignments. If you do have any questions on those, go ahead and post that up. But we are going to wrap up this evening with a bit of review of some of the submissions from the Palace game composition, Palace of Orinthalion. Looks like we've got 5 to work with. Notice that I have the 4 tracks, Earth, Fire, Water, and Wind, laid out here. And then I have markers up here. If you're looking for which one's yours, you can find the markers for each one of these vertically laid out. And then I am going to control the overall level of each one of the stems by using and mixing the different levels down here. So we're going to be listening to each one of the individual layers by themselves, and then we will also bring them all in simultaneously to see how they work together and how they will play in the game. Visually, it looks like all 5 of these are set up correctly, where they all start at the same time and they end at the same time. All of the files are the same length in all 4 of the layers. We've got Earth, Fire, Wind, and Water cues on each one of these. Solid levels or volume in each one of these cues. The fire cues are going to be the loudest of all 4. This one looks like it's a little bit lower than maybe some of the other ones. The earth cue is going to probably also be pretty strong. The wind cues and the water cues might be lower in level overall, just for the content and the relative complexity or density of tracks, or the energy level in the music. What else? They look like they fill up the regions, meaning that they should probably loop, or at least visually they do. There's no big gaps or silence anywhere. We always want to make sure that as the instrumentation reaches the end, it doesn't just get cut off, but it smoothly transitions back to the front, that the music fits within the context of the file. meaning that you didn't write a 20-bar phrase and fit it into a 16-bar audio file, or any other weird combination like that. Everything needs to be at the same tempo, same key. We are listening heavily for the correct. Everything's in the same key. Everything's at the same tempo. No clashing, no dissonance. Everything fits sonically, harmonically, melodically. Any of those other contexts. What else? And then individually, we are listening to make sure that there is enough instrumentation in each one of these cues that by themselves they make sense when played on their own, that it's not just one instrument playing in a lonely cue. There's different instrument layers per cue. We want to make sure that the instrumentation makes sense in that cue, that cue represents the proper intensity level, and it makes sure it fits, that each one of them has their own melodic theme to them. So those are the main considerations when listening to this project. Before I get started on this, let me go ahead and take another quick pause, but I think we should be good to go to listen to each one of them. Let me know if you have any questions here. Okay. I think we are set, ready to go to listen to the first one here. Get in here. I guess first we're going to make sure that we can hear it, so that you can hear it and I can hear it and everything is working properly. So let's see here. What happens? Play. Okay, I can hear that. Give me a heads up in the chat. Can you hear that? And you can still hear me and everything's working properly? Yes. Excellent. All right. All right, Liam. This is yours. Works well. All right. So let me start from the beginning. Let me go here. We got starting out with the Earth cue. Hello. Zoom in. All right, and we'll set up our loop around here and check it out. All right, so a nice flute lead line. Got a little bit of percussion in the background. Some harmonic instrumentation, creating the progression. Change in the second half. Harp in there. Excellent. Good progression, good loop there. Let's bring in our next layer. Let's go to the wind cue. We said that the wind represents the danger. All right. Still following the same progression. It works well when played together. We got the church bell in there. We got Some more winds. This one, I guess the melody is a little less well defined because it's mainly changing on the chord changes. And I might have more instrumentation in the lower registers. Is it following? It's not following the exact same melody, is it? Nope. Nope. That's good. Let's go to the fire cue. Alright, so we got some solid brass there. Probably need more percussion. Is that a crash? Marching snare would work really well. Probably some more cymbals. Good layers for the brass. Maybe some more, maybe some strings in there. Some staccato string lines could work. Just gotta make sure that it's a little bit different. Change from the melody lines. Good. Everything's sounding nice. Oh, there's the snare. This I would actually put over into the fire because that works well. And actually, there's my strings too that I mentioned. So I might make this one just a little bit lighter. Could probably leave more of the sustained strings in here. I thought I was hearing more staccato lines. Maybe it's the second half. More of those string lines. Yeah, I could move some of the sharper lines over to the fire along with the snare and make this a little bit more looser and more flowing. Alright, let's bring them all in together, see how they work, see how they sound. Alright, no clashing notes, no issues between the different layers. You can hear the different melodies work well together. So overall it fits very nicely together. Works, loops nicely. There's nothing that sticks out in the looping. So good work overall. Actually, let me check that wind. Looks like maybe the wind cue. Loop a little. Yeah, there's a lot of instrumentation that gets cut off there. It works easier with the earth, the fire, and the water because it has stronger percussion. So maybe watch that. But overall, really nice work. Good stuff to start with there. Let's move on and check out the next one. Starting with the earth cue. Alright, so we got a good, nice melody from the flutes. We got the strings, got a little percussion in there. Maybe a little bit more movement from the harmonic instrumentation because they seem to just kind of sit there on the chord. Like chord, 2, 3, 4, another chord, 2, 3. Now the melody helps because it has more movement overall. Maybe it might be because of the reverb. If there is more change, like the harp helps. Watch the loop. Lots of instrumentation just kind of getting shut down on the loop there. All right, so good foundation. Like the melody. Maybe changes to the harmonic instrumentation. Wind cue. All right, cool. I like the low strings. Is maybe a little bit sparse. mainly because it's just sustaining through the chord changes. That harp helps a bit. Maybe not the cymbal every single time, like that reverse cymbal. Just use it a little bit more sparingly. Maybe some other percussion effects, like some low timpanis would work. But definitely keep it in that lower register. Maybe some low brass in there could work. Just add a little bit more complexity overall. Actually, it's a harp. I was going to say, could maybe use a piano softly there. But the instrumentation works well. Maybe some additional layers. Fire cue. Nice power here. Percussion works well. Brass works well. The reverb might be a little much. I mean, it sounds good on the instrumentation. It just seems to be muddying things up, like especially some of these more powerful instruments with faster attack, like the staccato brass, might be just kind of rounding off the edges and edging out the power. Would like more of a melody instead of just focusing on the staccato brass. Maybe the first half and the second half, a little too similar. Yeah, so maybe a little bit more change in the first half and second half. A little bit more excitement from the fire cue. Like the power's there. Just needs a bit more change and variation through the cue. This one, actually both the wind and the water cue might run the risk of being too low in volume and get kind of masked and lost in the cue. Harp works. Winds work. Could use a stronger melody line and a few more instrument layers. See, these work well together, almost as like both of these together should be the wind with different additions for the water cue. So a little bit more change and variation and complexity through the water and the wind cues. A couple added layers in the fire cue. But nice work overall. Good stuff to listen to. Again, they fit well. Actually, I don't think we listened to all 4 of them together. Let's try that. The flute from this sticks out as the main melody. That, because there's not a real strong melodies, mostly harmonic lines through the fire, and then these just get buried so much. Needs a stronger melody. Needs a stronger melody. But it all fits nicely. All the layers looped well together and fit in the same key and the same tempo to piece well together. All right. Doing well so far. Let's go on to the next earth cue here. Instrumentation works well. Good progression. I like the plucked instrumentation sounds. Percussion works Maybe a bit repetitive in the progression. Phrase. And then kind of repeats that phrase. So more development in the progression. Needs a melody. Could probably use one of those instruments as the melody, but in its repetition, it really ends up being more of a harmonic line. So, more development. Wind cue. Ooh. Sounds similar because it has similar instrumentation. In fact, the wind cue sounds like it has... watch out for repeating any instrumentation from one cue to the next, because when you add them together, it doubles up on the levels, like the percussion, some of the progression instruments. Let's add the fire cue. Right? Still some similar instrumentation, but new ideas. We got the brass in there. Probably need some more staccato instrumentation, something with more of a punch, faster attack. Watch the repetition in the phrasing. And the water cue. It really sounds like there's a lot of instrumentation that's repeated from one to the next, even if it's maybe the same MIDI notes copied to other instruments, but you don't want to have the same performance on multiple instruments, like the exact same MIDI copied from one instrument to the next, and you don't want to have the exact same instrument line and performance copied from one to the next. Right? You don't need the same instruments in multiple cues. Determine which instrument layers go to which cues, so when they combine together, that it doesn't just double everything up. Still missing a real strong melody. There's some instruments that could kind of be a melody, but if you really got away from just following the progression and repeating it, you could probably introduce some stronger melodic lines. Progression-wise, it works well, except for the repetition, but it gives a good place to explore. There are some good instrument ideas in there, if not for be existing in multiple cues. All right, let's try the next one here. Go back to just Earth, and we'll start there. All right, so with the percussion, with the snare, I can tell just visually that this Earth cue is louder than the fire cue. The fire cue is going to be your biggest and loudest and strongest cue. So that snare line could probably work well in the fire cue. There's a bit of melody in there. Mainly it's kind of following the progression. But mostly it's sitting on the chord changes and sustaining from one chord to the next. Especially the piano, right? Chord, well, wait, sustain, chord, hold, chord, hold, chord. So, give me some movement from one chord change to the next. There is a bit more from the wind lines, which I think are mainly supposed to be the melodies, but they could be more pronounced. The snare overall is really what dominates the mix. Let's go to the wind cue. Watch out for the sustained brass. It feels a little synthetic. Need more movement, maybe some arpeggiation, something in there to hide the sustain. Just need more instrument layers. Again, it's kind of sitting on the chord changes. And this timpani and this snare should probably be in the fire loop. The earth cue doesn't need the snare, can probably use lighter percussion overall. This doesn't need a whole bunch of percussion unless it's like a really low bass. Which, I mean, this timpani could kind of work from that. So, a little bit more going on, except for other than the sustained brass through here. Like we heard harps worked well, maybe a piano line, or maybe some other winds. Fire cue, I'm not too excited about. I mean, the strings actually sound like they might fit better for the water cue. Watch out with the performance. I'm hearing this in some of the other cues, the earth and the wind cue. It's almost like I can hear your hand move from one chord change to the next. Like you can hear that it's a piano playing a string line because there's not much overlap or articulation. You can hear there's gaps between moving from one note to the next or one chord to the next. So much more power, much more instrumentation, more percussion, more brass and strings through the fire cue. The water cue sounds similar to the strings in the fire cue. So you want to make sure that it's not just a copied performance from one instrument layer to the next. Some of the brass sounds more synthetic, maybe depends on where the sources came from. But everything fits well together, same tempo, same key, so actually when you put it all together it works nicely. It's just the layers by themselves are a little bit more exposed. Alright. So, good progression. That works. More focus on melody. More instrument layers in the cue. Make the fire bigger. All of that good stuff. And one more. Let's see. Let's start at the earth cue again. I like the play back and forth between the different instrument lines, between the different winds, where it's like phrase on the flutes and then response. The lead one sounds maybe a little too forward compared to the other one. Like if it's supposed to... Oh, watch that loop. A cymbal line that just got cut off. Yeah. Make sure that the winds are balanced a little bit more. Maybe it's just level. It's actually better if you wear both headphones. I imagine that. So, a little bit better. So maybe adjust the mix there a little bit. Maybe more movement from the piano line also. Let's go to the wind cue. Alright, so mainly the choir. Probably need more. A synth choir, you always got to really watch out for synth choirs, even if they're sampled, because the attack, every time you hit the key, it says it the same way. It starts the note out the same way. Choirs work well as background instruments with a lot more movement on top of it. So probably need some more layers here. Low string, low brass would work well along with what the choir's trying to do. Maybe a little percussion. Is there an organ in there? Yes. But the organ and the choir play back to right on top of each other, so or follow each other real closely. Fire cue. Right, that was, need more from the brass. There's some good. Needs more, the percussion works, needs more brass, more strings, more just bigger instrumentation. Whoa, watch that crash, that gets cut off. There's some brass hits that work well. This one right here. Those bigger brass lines fit pretty well, so just larger instrumentation overall from the fire cue. More focus on a lead instrument. Again, you can kind of hear your hands moving on the string patch. Make sure you overlap the MIDI lines. Watch the loops on all of the cues. Instrumentation's getting cut off. So you can hear some melodies stick out nicely. You want to make sure that each one of them has their own melodic voice. Maybe clean up the marching snare, the rolling snare through the fire cue. Watch the loops. Those are the most obvious issues. All right, but good progression, good instrumentation. Just need some tweaks to the different lines and the cues. All right. But good stuff overall. Good things to check out. Lots of good things to talk about. Mostly it's like before. It's not a complete start from scratch or anything like that. There's some good ideas there and good progressions. It's typically just more of the same, more instrumentation, more focus on melody to make it all work together. So, all right, nice job. Let's go ahead and wrap it up there. If you have any questions, I'll stick around a few minutes in the chat. But that will, let's see, we'll do it for tonight, and we will head into Thursday to wrap up the week overall. So please get in contact with me if you have any issues or questions on the assignments for this week. But other than that, have a good evening, and I will see you again on Thursday. All right, thanks.